Juliet Barney, and this is God's Generals. So today we're going to be learning about a guy called William Branham. So his title in the God's Generals book is A Man of Notable Signs and Wonders. The first thing I noted about this was that the other generals have names that are empowering and uplifting. Things like the founder of miracles or the great healer. Him, his signs, his wonders, they're notable, but they're not great, they're not brilliant, they're not amazing. Just another thing I noticed. He was born on the 6th of April 1909 to a father 18 years old and a mother barely 15. First supernatural appearance that happened in his life was when his grandparents opened the window to see their grandson better, and a light came in that circled around his head. Which the first thing I noticed about this was that it's a bit like the Christmas story where Jesus was born in a manger, which is one of the humblest of homes, of course, and there was a star that shone in the sky and it shone for him. Whilst William was born in a shack. William was born in a shack, a falling apart shack, and there was the light that circled around his head, and it circled around him for him. Just another thing I noticed. And so, later on when he was about 12, he wanted to go fishing with his friends, and his parents said no. His grandparents said no. And so he wasn't allowed to go, and he got really upset and went to sit under an oak tree, like a lot of people do when you're upset. Sometimes they go and sit under a tree. And so what he did was he went and sat under the tree, and there was wind at the top of the tree, but there was no wind anywhere else, which is strange, right? So what happened was he heard a voice, and this voice was thundering, and it said, "Never smoke, drink, or defile your body in any way, for I have great plans for you." The God's Generals book says this was God, and I believe it was too. Why? Later on, when he was 16, he did work experience at a gas station, which is a strange choice for a job when you think about it. But anyway, the gas tank exploded when he was near it, and so he had to go to hospital. And they said he had a few weeks to live because there was chemical gas lining the inside of his stomach, which of course it can be fatal. And so whenever he was unconscious, he heard the same voice that had said, "Never smoke, drink, or defile your body in any way, for I have great plans for you." But this time it said something different. This time it said, "I have called you, but you have not listened. You have not come to me." And that was the same voice. Whenever he was unconscious, he always had that voice. And there was one day that he was about to die. 2 minutes more and he would have died. And he had the same voice that had said those two things to him. But this time it said, "I have given you a choice. This is your last one. Hell or heaven." And can you guess which one he chose? I think you can. He chose heaven. And that was the day he became saved. And then a few days before that, his brother had died, and obviously he was a bit upset, but he became saved on that day, and he was happy. And then he got married at the age of 20 to a nice little girl called Hope. And they had 2 children, a son and a daughter, but there was one cold, harsh winter when mumbling on my words here, where William, he went and did his ministry, but the Hope stayed there with the son and the daughter, and they went to go and visit the grandfather and the grandmother because it was safer there was no flooding and that, but they got flooded in, and so Hope died of pneumonia, and their youngest newborn daughter, she died of hypothermia, which left William with only his son. You can research more about the son if you want. That could be homework for this week, to find out more about the son, find out more about his ministry, find out if he's still alive, that sort of thing. Find out more about William as well, like is his ministry still going today? What happened? Like, has anybody taken over or things like that. And he got a new wife. He had a good ministry, even though he had said he would never get another wife. But it's what Hope would have wanted, so he did. And his ministry grew and grew into the 10,000s and the millions. He even got his own magazine, The Voice of Healing. Not sure if you can still get copies these days. You can check it out. But obviously gay magazines was a bit rare in those days. And so he had his own magazine, and then there was one, and he ended up being surrounded by what the Golf General's book calls yes men. These are men who said yes so many times that it started to pacify his ego, until it grew bigger and bigger, obviously, and he began to say crazy ideas that weren't of God. These crazy ideas included things like women are the seed of the serpent. If somebody dies, it's a woman's fault. If a funeral goes down the road, it's a woman's fault. Anything bad in the world is a woman's fault, which I obviously do not agree with. And so, in the end, God kind of said, it's time to go. You've done your purpose on the earth. And then you left me and you retired to flesh. And what happened was, he said this through a car crash on 24th of December, Christmas Eve, 1965. And his second wife, his son, and him were all in the car. The wife became unconscious, went in a coma. The son lived, perfectly healthy now, if he's still alive, of course. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, from whatever point you look at it, Branham died in that car crash. And I think that was God's way of saying, it's time to go. But before he died, because of the yes men, he started his own corner, his own little corner of the Christian religion. They called the people who follow what Branham believed are called Branhamites, or Branhamism. And so he started his own little corner of the Christian religion, and that's basically how there was the Branhamites and Branhamism, which is their little bit. And they believe that William was the next Elijah and the forerunner of Christ. And if you want to find out more, there's a link in the description below where you can find out more about what Branhamism is, who are Branhamites. Yeah. One announcement before we get to the end. I want to thank Auntie Joan Graham for always doing her homework. I hope other people take your example and do their homework as well. I know that isn't always time, but of course you should always try. And thank you, good night and goodbye.